Hello, all-nighters. This is a special Father's Day episode bringing to you Kieran. I'm going to say that again. Bear with me. Hello, all-nighters. We have a special Father's Day episode for you. We have Kieran, who is. Alice, you might want to say this. Kieran from Dad Matters. No. Kieran is
I can say it if you like. You can say we've
I
got
think you
Kieran. Where
should.
are you from? And then
There
I'll
we
do it.
go. I think that's better.
Yeah,
He's not, this isn't his first rodeo.
It's
It's
not
like-
your first rodeo.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Hello, all-nighters. We have a special Father's Day episode for you today, and we have an amazing guest, Kieran, who is from...
I'm from Dad Matters, which is a Home Start project. I'm based at Home Start UK.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. As you know, this is our special Father's Day episode, and we really want to know what Dad Matters does, what Home Start UK is about, and what services you offer. So tell us a little bit about Home Start, Dad Matters, and how you got involved.
So Home Start in Tameside, we're advertising for a dad champion. That was the job title. And it was all about supporting dads in the perinatal period, finding out how they need support services to look and what they would appreciate happening. And so I applied for the job and got the job. I was a teacher before that, which I also loved, but this was really interesting. So then I was given maybe a year. We had innovation funding from the Health Foundation, and we worked with the clinical staff at the Early Attachment Service to develop a project that supported dads with attachment and bonding, supported their mental health, and helped them to access services when and where they needed them to access. So we spent a year doing consultation with dads, speaking to as many as we could. We did about 200 in consultation around the branding and the project and what that looked like. And we spoke to around 200 in universal engagement, which is something we still do now. That was 8 years ago. That was just me in Tameside. Now there's around 38 coordinators in the UK, working with around 34 individual Home Start charity schemes, Home Start projects. And we see, in the last year, we saw 13,000 dads in universal engagement. So that's places like antenatal clinics, post-labour wards, neonatal units, places like that. We saw 1,000 dads in a NICU with a baby in a neonatal unit. 50 dads in rainbow clinics where they've experienced loss and having a baby again. And we supported dads one-to-one. I think last year was around 800. So in total now, for the 8 years that we've been running, we're over 20,000 dads in universal engagement, over 2,000 dads in one-to-one support, and we've trained around 10,000 professionals to be more father-friendly, to understand how their practice impacts dads and how to refer into the service and how to support dads and their babies more fully.
Amazing numbers, and not just dads. You talk about supporting the wider family. You talk about...
Sorry, I've got a crying baby. Sorry, 1 second.
Okay, do you know what? We're just going to continue.
I love having crying babies in videos. It's fine.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, just bring the baby with you at this point.
Definitely.
Are you going to bring her with... Oh, yeah, there we go. Zariah's joining.
Amazing. Hi, Zariah. It's nice to meet you.
So you talk about the numbers of dads that you've reached out to. What does that service look like for dads? So is it a conversation? Is it dads coming to you and asking questions? How do you support dads, and what does that look like?
The number one thing to remember is that we can't rely on dads coming to us, because they don't come to services, they don't come out to people to speak. We have to go to them. So rather than waiting for dads to reach out, we reach in. And we go to places where they're thinking about themselves as a dad. So in particular, antenatal clinics, scan clinics, mother and baby units, neonatal units, post-labour wards, birth registration is another good one. We see lots and lots of dads at these places. So we go there and we don't wait for them to approach us while we're there. We don't stand with a little table. We go straight to them and say, how are you doing? What's going on for you? And And we're really curious about the answers they give us as well, because if you say to a man, "How are you doing?" he's going to tell you that he's fine, because it's just a societal norm, isn't it? But what we're going to say is there anything you want to talk about though, or how are you finding? And we might ask particular things around the birth, around sleep, around work, around relationships with his partner. Anything that we know might impact dads, we'll ask about those things directly. We'll be very upfront about it. We don't shy away from those questions. And it really elicits really good conversations from those dads. When you give them the right platform, they'll speak about whatever it is they need to speak about. But the platform is the thing that we struggle with, I think.
And what is it? So we both watched Steve's story, and it was so, for me, it was so impactful to hear a dad who was just saying, baby comes home, there's that initial excitement, everyone's really happy, and then you realize that there's a crying baby and you are the only source of joy, happiness and comfort. And he said he felt really inadequate, and when the baby would cry, that he just wanted it to stop, and just all of these emotions that were coming out when the baby's there. How do you coach a dad through that process? And by the way, in Steve's story, he reaches out to you, he Googles like dad services or dad support, he goes online and he messages you guys, and you message back like instantly, which is amazing. And then he just says he felt just really supported, and that you'd been through that journey. Is that what it's like? And is that what people should expect, I guess?
Yeah, it's difficult, and we can't promise that we'd be able to respond immediately to everybody. We try our best, and we have automatic replies to people so they can get information they need. But we try to respond. We try to signpost as soon as we can to places that might help. If dads are in crisis, we want to make sure that they get the crisis information, because we're not a crisis service, but there are people out there that can help with that kind of thing. I think for people like Steve, we try and educate them about their role as a dad, about the changes that they're going through, about hormonal changes in men that happen when partners are pregnant and when babies arrive. Things like testosterone levels dropping can really affect how emotional you feel. And it can be a big change for a dad who's not had that kind of experience before. So understanding that this is a biological process that you're going through to help you be a better parent is really important. There is some research that shows when babies cry, initially your testosterone levels drop and it helps you to be more attuned, and there's other hormones that rise like vasopressin and prolactin, but actually if it's a prolonged cry, so sometimes babies just cry for a while, and it just happens, doesn't it? When that happens, sometimes testosterone levels go to like a fight or flight response, where in evolutionary we're waiting for the saber-toothed tiger to attack the family, and we're looking for threats, and actually that can be really frustrating for a dad who knows the baby's safe but feels like he needs to be doing more to protect them. And that's a biological change. So there is some research that shows that, and helping dads to understand that these things are normal and all dads experience them, we just don't talk about them enough, can really help dads to navigate that those issues when they arise. But also we really want to help dads to understand that you don't have to be perfect, you've just got to be good enough. And being good enough means that you can be frustrated with a baby that's crying. You can walk away and leave the baby somewhere safe, go and calm down for a few minutes, and then go back. And it's the going back that really benefits the baby. The rupture to that that happens when you repair that by going back again, that's a really good developmental opportunity for babies too. So we can really help dads to understand that and be educated around their role with that, and how that might look slightly different to mums, and how mums and dads might have different expectations of each other's parenting as well as their own. And we can juggle that and negotiate that between us as couples, and also understanding that there is intuition that men feel. We have a parental instinct, and that might not always look the same as mums. Dads are probably more likely to be much more rough with their children, much more like play fighting and teasing, and actually that's evolutionary. It's not a mistake, and it's not wrong. We need mums and dads to understand that, so that there's less gatekeeping around who parents best, basically.
And that is so important, right, Alice? Sorry, you wanted to say something. Yeah.
I think as you were talking, a lot of the things that you said, I mean, a lot of the things that you're saying just around the hormones and things like that, it's the exact same for women as well, in terms of their hormones are everywhere. So it's so nice to hear that, not nice to hear, but it's so reassuring that men also are going through it, because we as women we talk about, oh, my hormones are up and down and stuff like that, but we never hear a partner or a
Mm.
guy or whatever saying, actually, this is what my body is experiencing at the moment. And it's probably they don't have the language to say it, or they don't know.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting that two people could be going through the same thing at the same time and just not know it about each other.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that we're both going through hormonal changes, but they are very different hormonal changes, is really
Yeah.
telling as well. We know that within the first couple of weeks of mums having a baby, that their hormones are realigning themselves to be not pregnant
Yeah.
anymore. And there's lots of mood swings within that 2 weeks that we might call that baby blues, and we can support them to
Mm.
get through that. But after that 2 weeks, if that carries on, then we're looking at things like postnatal mental illnesses and
Depression.
supporting
Yeah.
mums with that. But for dads, we don't think about that at all.
No.
If there's mood swings, we often think that dad's just being a dick, and we don't want that. Do you know? And yeah, and
Basically.
actually, we can be a bit more curious about what dad's experiencing and how he's feeling and what's going on, and support dad to understand that this is completely normal. What we don't
Mm.
have is a society where dads can talk about that openly, not just so to other dads, but to their partners in particular.
Yeah, and I think it's such a shame, because I do think there's something around men having their own safe spaces where they can talk about these things,
Mm.
um, and not feeling less than, or however it is that the feeling is, and just understanding that actually they are just as much on a journey as watching their partner who's had this baby as well. But what kind of just linked to that, what you're talking about, I just wanted to, because there's work that you do as well, just around the letting fathers know around about the development of the baby from when the baby's in the womb,
Mm.
and that actually they play a role from that moment, because I think sometimes dads do feel a bit, I'm out of the loop, there's nothing for me to do, I just have to wait until the baby's here. But actually you guys do a lot of work educating them that actually when the baby's in the womb and can hear your voice, there's work that you can do. So I guess if you could just talk about that a bit more, because it's so important that dads understand that they play a role right from the beginning, not just when the physical baby's here.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a new dad workshop, and we also do 30-minute dad chats within antenatal education that is delivered by midwives. So the first thing to say is that we don't want to bring dads away from the services they should access, like maternity
Mm.
care. We don't want them to have an independent antenatal class just with us and then feel they don't need to go and see the midwives and ask them questions about the birth and the labour and the hospital and all that sort of stuff. So our new dad workshop and our antenatal education programs are around attachment and bonding, mental health and accessing services, which are the three things we know we can have a big impact on. So the first thing we want to talk about is what is attachment and why is it different from bonding, and who is the one that attaches. And babies attach with their caregivers, and it's a part of their survival mechanisms. It's how they get care, and it's really, really important. It's a critical reason why humans are so successful. So if babies are attaching, they don't need to just attach to mum. They can attach to lots of other caregivers, and we know that dads are usually the secondary caregiver, but sometimes it's same-sex couples, sometimes it's single parents, sometimes it's foster parents or adopters or surrogates. So there's a lot of different people in families' lives, and attachment works the same way for all of those people in those very early days. So when you say that dads can start to form those attachments, those bonds with babies in the womb, actually one of the really important things is for dad to start thinking about the baby as an independent person. And that can happen before the baby can hear dad. So dad can form a bond with baby before baby knows that dad exists. And that's key. So things like the really early scans, going to the appointments with your partner when you're having your pregnancy tests or you've seen the doctor for the first time. And then thinking about what equipment do you need, what names are you thinking about. All of those things can really help dads to form that bond before the baby knows about them. But as soon as the baby can hear dad, which is between 20 and 24 weeks in the womb, they know that dad is there. They know how mum feels when dad's talking. So if mum and dad are having a calm relationship and that mum feels good when dad's around, baby feels good too. So that's forming those relationships, and baby gets to know dad's voice. Babies also really like repetition and rhythm. So singing and reading to your babies while they're in the womb is a really great way to establish a relationship and then build that. When they arrive, you can carry that on. Some babies will be soothed by the music that they've heard in the womb, so creating playlists of the music that you like and imagining singing that with your baby, but also singing it to your baby while they're in the room. All of that is great, and all of it establishes the relationship to then develop as the baby grows. One of the things that we know about dads is that they get their peak of oxytocin in their relationship with their baby when they play together. Whereas for mums, it's when they nurture each other. So when a mum nurtures a baby, they get the peak of oxytocin together. But for dads, it's when they play. And so play might look different. It might look like roughhousing, or it might look like teasing. And a lot of dads feel that can't happen when the baby's newborn. It happens when they're a bit more mobile or a bit more robust. But actually, when you've got a newborn, that kind of interactive play is blowing raspberries on their tummy, tickling their feet, pulling faces at them. Those kinds of things, more physical interactive play, it starts from birth, and we can encourage dads to do more of that. Baby touch, baby massage, and that can really help to build that bond as well. And then on top of all that, skin to skin is fantastic. It releases hormones for babies and dads that really help them to fall in love, really help them to feel co-regulated. It can regulate emotions as well as temperature and lots of other things. So it's a great way to do that. And it's not just for when the baby's born. It's, carry it on at home. Use it as a soothing technique. Whenever you get the opportunity, get your top off and have the baby on your chest. Babies don't care that you've got a hairy chest either. That's okay. They might not like a stubbly chest, so hairy or bald is probably best. Don't go for the stubbles in the middle. But do it anyway. And then one thing my kids always say to me now is that I hope you tell them that they can't just keep doing it until they're teenagers, because teenagers really don't want to do that anymore. So I do make sure that I tell dads that as well.
It sounds like such a brilliant support service that you do provide from dads, and it's so wide ranging. It's not just, because you know what, I'm just going to be a bit blunt and say what I expected from a dad's services. All right, lads, we're all going down the pub, we're all going to have a drink and talk about how difficult it is to be a dad. But you bring research behind it. You talk about the emotions. You talk about the testosterone, all of that, and the complexities of being a human, but all those the uniqueness of being a dad, which I can hear from this conversation I'm having with you. I've never thought that in regards to my husband or him being a dad. I'm just, sometimes as mums or as parents, you can just be like, why isn't he helping? Why isn't he carrying the baby? Or, oh, I'm the one that has to do this and do that. Where actually, I don't think any of those conversations happen at all before the baby's born. I remember even doing NCT, or the workshop that you do before the baby arrives. It's all about mummy, and maybe they talk about dad a little bit. But actually, I don't know how much involvement is brought in with the dads, but also the terminology that's used with dads. You using the language and terminology today has made me think extremely differently about the role of the dad, rather than just he's just there to look after to support mum. And I think that's so validating, and fathers need to hear it ultimately.
Yeah, and dads want to be there to support mum. That's the reason that they go to all of the appointments usually, and the antenatal classes. What we miss is the opportunity to help them understand their own role. Alongside that supportive role, they have a role as a father, so we can help them to understand what that looks like and how to develop that too. I wanted to tell you a little story about my own dad. When I had my little girl, 27 years ago it might be now. She was crying in the front room, and I picked her up, and my mum said to me, "You shouldn't pick her up. You're making a rod for your own back." I remember her words really clearly. Making a rod for your own back, she'll be spoiled and she'll just want picking up all the time.
It sounds familiar.
You'll never get anything done. Yeah, and my mum said that to me, and I didn't feel comfortable with it. And she left the room and went to put the kettle on, and my dad put his arm around me and said, "Every time you cried, I picked you up until you stopped, and it felt like the best thing to do. So if you want to do that, you keep doing it." And that really set the stall out for me in the way that I was going to be as a dad. But what I've realised since doing Dad Matters is that my dad whispered that to me so my mum wouldn't hear him, because my mum was the parent who knew everything, and he was doing it against her wishes. He felt good about doing it. It felt like the natural, instinctive thing to do, but he didn't think he was right because my mum had told him not to. And so, I'm really clear about what we do is for babies. Dad Matters is a baby service. We are supporting babies to have better relationships with dads. and everything that we can do to improve that. It means including mums in that. It means including professionals in that. We need to bring everyone on the journey with us.
And that's such a beautiful story, because and role model is really important. Role models are key.
Mm.
Hearing it from your role model, who is your father, is so important. I mean, even if your mum had said it, even if your mum had said it, I mean, it would be great if your mum had said, pick your daughter up.
Yeah.
But actually hearing it from your dad is so important. I just wanted to mention, just staying on that line of you're nurturing the baby and holding the baby. The one thing that almost made me cry when I listened to Steve's story was then he said, he'd been on the phone to you guys and had that support. And then there was one point where he tripped going down the stairs, and he held on to his baby. Literally, he said, for dear life is what he did. He held on to his baby. And he said, that's the natural instinct, to protect your baby, to guard them from any danger. And no matter how emotional you feel about anger or frustration or whatever, that's the core, isn't it? To care and love for your baby and protect them at any cost, right? Which is what you do and what you were doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We often think that being protective is a little bit stoic, and it's on the outside of the family. We stand in front of them rather than with them, but we don't. We stand, we hold our babies, we protect them from the things they need protecting from. But I think what dads also bring, and again, this is that evolutionary kind of development, is we help babies to navigate those challenges. So mums will scoop a baby up and hold them from the scary things, but dads will scoop them up and turn them to face the scary things, knowing that they're safe. And that feels like a really good developmental tool that dads bring to that relationship.
Absolutely.
I think that leads nicely onto just around myth busting, I guess. So, and what I mean by that is whenever you talk to dads or professionals or whatever, you must hear stories, or you must hear kind of takeaways of, oh, men don't do that, or oh, I'm not supposed to do that, it's not my job, or whatever it is. And I'm just wondering if there are any particular myths that you come across quite often, or sayings that you come across quite often from dads, and then you have to actually in that moment say, actually no, this is the case, or it's okay to feel like that, that's normal. I don't know if there's anything particular that you come across quite often.
Oh, there's a few, yeah. So the first one would be that men are not instinctive parents, but research shows us that men's hearts race at the same pace as mums' hearts when they're nurturing their babies. Dads can tell their baby after holding them for an hour just by holding their hand. This research shows that men are instinctive. Our brains change, our hormonal patterns change, all because we're parents, and all to help us to be able to parent in a way that is nurturing and is responsive. So that's the first myth, absolutely busting that one. Men can't multitask, but actually, I mean, we joke about it, don't we? But we don't mean men, we mean dads. And we mean dads because mums do more stuff all at once. But actually, we celebrate men who multitask in the world of work. Men
Yes.
multitask in lots and lots of other areas of their life. They are more than capable of multitasking as a parent.
Yeah.
Are they allowed to multitask? Maybe not. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the key. And I don't mean allowed like somebody stopping them. I mean the messaging that they get from society tells them that maybe they shouldn't be doing that. But actually, they can do all of the parenting.
Absolutely.
Mums are learning just as much as dads. I think in this country we have a real issue with the amount of time dads get to learn about their baby, the amount of time that they get with their babies to learn about them and what their cues are, and that has a big impact on whether or not dads feel like a natural parent. Mums feel more and more natural as they go on and get to know their babies, but dads don't always get the same opportunities. So, and then one last myth I think to kind of bust for us is that women can't work with men when they're professionals, and actually there's research from the Fatherhood Institute that shows that professionals that are delivering an intervention to men are just as successful if they're male or female. But often, if you're a midwife or a health visitor, it often feels uncomfortable to think about working with men because you're not a man and it feels different. But actually, the successful relationships is all down to your professional conduct and how you speak to them, what language you use, what resources you have. And so absolutely women can work with men in a professional capacity as a parenting advisor, as a supporter or clinical support, whatever it might be. I think where there isn't as much research is in how we engage dads. And actually, at Dad Matters, we have female coordinators that work for us who have a really successful relationship with dads.
Yeah.
And that's down to the branding, to the imaging, to the language, to the resource that we use is dad friendly. It says dad all over it. It's dad on the tin. If it says dad on it, dads can't ignore it. They can't defer that to mum and say, you read this and tell me what I need to do, because that's
Yes.
often what they do with other stuff. So it needs to say dad on it. That's absolutely a main point. But yeah, there's plenty of other myths out there. We can keep going all day with those, I think.
But you know what? The one in particular that stood out to me was the females can work with men and still get that message across. I work in children's social care, and we do a lot of work with young men around becoming dads, or around just relationships and how they treat women or young women and things like that. And there's always been this thing around, should it be a should it be a male delivering it? Because would a male want to relate to a male a bit more, or would they see a woman as condescending, or however it may come across? So I think it's interesting that the research actually said it's possible, it can be done.
Yeah, it's all about learning how to do it and having the right resources around, using the right approach. And in particular, young dads feel that they feel quite, what's the word? Disrespected is probably a bit too strong, but when there's older parents telling them how to parent, young parents feel really disenfranchised from that system. And so, but actually, if it's a professional, if it's a midwife or a health visitor, those young dads want to listen. They want to hear about that. They want to learn more about it. So in peer support, sometimes we struggle to get young dads into peer support that has older dads in it. And so maybe having young dad peer support separately is a good thing. Having a worker who works just with young dads who maybe is youth work experienced is probably a good thing. And there's organisations like the North East Young Dads and Lads are doing an amazing job in Northumberland, I think, around that area. And in Salford, we've got the Young Dads worker called Tom, who's an amazing guy, working just with young dads. We also have Mike at Dad Matters, who works in Greater Manchester with young dads and dads with autism and dads from ethnic minorities and dads from LGBT communities too. Because while dads are underrepresented everywhere, there are groups of dads that are more underrepresented, and we want to make sure that we can reach them.
Absolutely. You mentioned earlier, and this we wanted to talk about paternity leave. You mentioned very briefly that, are dads allowed to? And that goes to the messaging, but it's also about time, you kind of mentioned. The other thing you mentioned is that mums just get better and better the more that they and mums get more opportunity to do it. You are off for potentially 3 months. You're off for maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Actually, maybe you're a stay-at-home mum. You then become ultimately potentially an expert. But also, we're all learning. Nobody will ever say, and if you're being honest, you don't know what you're doing when you start this entire process. And it's the same with dads. We're all starting from a very similar position, but then I think dads are they get even less opportunity to build that bond with paternity leave. And it's ridiculous. How is 2 weeks enough to ever bond with your child? How is 2 weeks enough ever to understand their rhythm, their pattern, and to give that care and support? And just wanted to get your perspective on it, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. 2 weeks is not enough for dads to have a meaningful start to their fatherhood. There's a few things that I'd want to highlight, because you can't just roll everything up into one neat little message usually. Mainly, that 2 weeks isn't enough for mums to get the support from dads that they need in the transitions that they're going through too.
No.
So that's a big part of, that's what we need dads to understand, because that's what's going to motivate dads to campaign for more paternity leave, is that their partners and their babies are benefiting from it. Because if they don't see that, then they don't really think about whether it's okay for them or not. So they need to know that babies and mums are going to benefit from that. The second thing is that actually 30 minutes a day with your baby is enough to form a really good bond with them. What we don't want dads to think is that just because they've only got 2 weeks, they can't come home and do the bath, do the bedtime, do the reading, do the changing, get the baby up in the night, do the mornings. We want them to do as much as they can in the time that they've got, because that builds that bond. What we don't want them to do is come home and go, but mum's better at it than me, so I'm going to let mum do it. Because actually,
Absolutely.
mum's only better at it than you because mum does it for the whole day and she's doing it every day. And that amount of time it really impacts on mum's ability to feel confident in doing it. And it looks to dad like mum is just naturally good at this. So
Yeah.
we don't want dads to do that. But absolutely, we need a few more weeks. 6 weeks is about the kind of time we'd be looking at to support a mum who's had a C-section. That feels like a starting point
Yeah.
for me. I feel like if we can support mums to get over the physical part of having a baby, particularly if they have to have a C-section, and we can support mums with that bond in those first days, and then that gives us the opportunity to form our own bonds too. Those three things in particular are I think, ideal reasons for us to have extra paternity leave.
I love
The
it.
other thing is that, people say, well, you can share paternity leave. There is no man that I know who has said to their partner, I want to take some of your leave off you.
Exactly.
That it's never going to happen, is it? And unless your partner has a career they want to get back to sooner, it's really difficult to negotiate that. Because I don't ever want my partner to think, I want some of your leave. Even if she doesn't want to take all 12 months of it, I still don't want to have that conversation where
You're
I say,
right.
well, I want some, you know? So
You're
shared
absolutely
parental
right.
leave needs to be, it needs to be, this is for mum, this is for dad, take it or leave it. And then hopefully, like the more Scandinavian countries, dads will take it, and they'll get more time.
Absolutely. So well said. Okay.
Sorry, Kieran, I just wanted to ask you, because you do this role now, I just wonder what is a core parenting memory for you in terms of when you've raised your children, you probably helped other dads raise their children as well. I'm just wondering, do you have like a core parenting moment of your own that you feel like actually, yeah, this is my go-to when I feel a bit, dads get a really tough go. I do feel like actually, yeah, this is a memory that I hold on to, and this is why I just think being a dad is awesome. We all know it's awesome, but yeah, I don't know if you've got a core
Yeah,
memory.
there's a few. I think I experienced baby loss when I was 19, to an illness called Group B strep, and it's not really well known about. When my subsequent babies were born, I found the birth really traumatic because of the previous loss, and it was really, really difficult. And so that was 28 years ago, the loss, 26 years ago, my eldest daughter. Um, and then there was a gap. And so in the gap, I really struggled at the beginning. I was drinking too much and I was avoiding being around my partner. Our relationship broke down. We got back together after a few years and we had another baby and it worked out. But for me, there was some people around me that were really, really supportive. My dad himself was he did his best. He was always there. He was always available. He listened more than he told me what to do, which was really, really important. And I had an uncle, my uncle Andy, who would check in on me. He wouldn't wait for me to go around to his house. He wouldn't wait to bump into me in the street. He would come round or he would phone me and say, "How are you doing today? What's going on for you?" And invite me to things. And I think that really helped me to understand that I can't sit back and wait for dad to come to me. I can't hold a sign saying, "If you're a dad, come and speak to me. We'll chat," because it's never going to work. And so I'm going to the dads, and that's always what I've always tried to do. And now that I've got the opportunity to do that through Dad Matters and share it with other people who have the same ambition, and we're reaching tens of thousands of dads in that way now, and that for me feels like my parenting memory of the struggles that I had and the support that I got have helped me to do that, shape that for dads in other places too.
That's
So
incredible.
beautiful.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing that. And it also kind of talks to that thing around in a slightly separate thing, just around when mothers experience baby loss in whatever shape or form that is. That father, what is the support there that's given to fathers as well? Because there is so much that's put around mums that actually dads can be kind of left on the outskirts a little bit. So I think that's yeah.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that.
I think
Um,
one of the issues is that there is services for dads, but they're nearly always attached to the services that mums get, and dads don't often want to approach those services because they don't want their partner to get less of a service or to feel like they're
yeah,
taking anything away.
yeah.
We have a loss and bereavement Facebook page, and we do loss and bereavement walk and talks in Greater Manchester. We have a member of staff who works with dads who've experienced loss and bereavement. But there's other organisations. Petals Dads is great. and then places like Sands, who have all of the football teams, and there's a few others. We've got a whole load of information on our website about loss and bereavement too, so people can access that if they need to.
And we will share all of those links on the Instagram page and social media. And when we put this out, I guess this is a Father's Day episode, what is your ultimate Father's Day gift present? Like, it is the perfect Father's Day for you. What are you expecting today, Father's Day? Or maybe next year, because maybe your daughter's listening.
Yeah, I would say I'm not expecting anything because my daughters are grown up and they forget about me really easily.
Oh,
I'm going to make
they
them
love
listen
you,
to this
really.
so
They
they know
love
I've said
you.
that now. Oh, of course they do. Yeah, of course they do. They text me all the time when they want money, so I know that they know who I am and where my phone is. Yeah. No, to be fair, so when the kids were younger, anything that they took time over was amazing. So making things, and I kept everything, like all the pictures and little statues and all that
Oh,
sort of rubbish. Yeah, I loved all of that. I loved it when my eldest daughter used to do shows, so she'd come in and go, "Dad, I'm going to sing this for you for Father's Day," and I'd have 5 minutes of
oh.
Wicked or The Lion King or some musical that she wanted to perform. So I loved that. But I think my favourite present I've ever had, my eldest daughter Dharma, she got her first wage from a job when she was about 16, and she was working in like a little Starbucks cafe thing, and she went out and bought me a Spider-Man mug. It was like a Spider-Man's head,
Oh,
and out of her first wage. So that was my favourite one I've ever had.
that's
Yeah,
so caring. That's so
yeah,
beautiful.
it was
And
lovely, wasn't it?
hold on, no pressure, but do you still have the mug?
Yeah, it's my work mug. I use it in the office. And,
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. We always ask our guests, when was the last time they pulled an all-nighter? And we've had a variety of stories, all the way from people reminiscing back from when they were like teenagers, living it up in the club, or from when they've like had sleepless nights with their babies, or just like writing a report for their work. When was the last time you, Kieran, pulled an all-nighter?
So I'm 47 next week, and
You don't look it. Happy
oh,
birthday in
thank you.
advance.
I'll take that.
In advance. You don't look
Um,
it at all.
Thank you. I wasn't fishing for compliments, but I'll take them wherever I can get them, if I'm honest. Yeah, so I'm 47. The last time I pulled an all-nighter was probably about 2 months ago. I was on scout camp, and our tents blew
Oh,
away in the middle of the night. So me and the other three leaders got up and were holding a tent so it wouldn't blow away while trying to fix the poles at 3 o'clock in the morning with torrential rain and wind. But I can honestly say not one of the kids woke up. Not one of them woke up.
You know, I was about to ask, so what were the kids doing
They
during
slept
this?
through. They woke up in the morning and went, "Has one of the tents gone?" Yeah, yeah, one of the tents has gone, yeah.
While you guys
I
were
love
being
it.
business and holding it down for them, were protecting the kids. They had
Well, I
no
was more
clue.
bothered about the breakfast food that was under the tent. You don't want the bacon and sausages and everything to get wet, do you, when you're on camp? So,
Oh my gosh, that is the best putting an all-nighter story. I love it.
yeah.
Okay. And then I guess this has been such an insightful interview, and you speak so in terms of from your perspective and your background, and everything has been so inspirational, but also emotional to listen to. We want so many other dads and mums and carers and supporters to hear this and engage with you or other organizations. So how can they get in touch with you? What should they do and how do they, communicate and engage with your organization or service?
Yeah, so the best way is to look out for Home Start in your area, local Home Starts. Home Start is an amazing charity. They do family support for families with under fives. Some of them have got Dad Matters. If your local one does, that's the best place to go to talk about Dad Matters. You can go to our website, dadmatters.org.uk. There's a national page that has loads of signposting to apps and resources and blogs and support services and things like that. It also has links to all of our individual local projects. There's also a page on there for loss. There's a page on there for LGBTQ plus families. There's a few other pages for like NICU and some other bits. You can use the contact forms on there to get in touch with us. We have a new dad workshop. You can book onto that through the website. It's every twice a month. But we also recruit volunteers. So in the areas where we have a Dad Matters project, we want volunteers who do the universal stuff for us. So we don't need volunteers to do the one-to-one work with dads. We want them to go and do the nice stuff. They're asking dads how they're doing, talking about babies, going to the antenatal educations, the antenatal clinics. But also, two things that we really need more of. We need pictures of dads, particularly doing very dadly things in the early days. Things like skin to skin, supporting mums who are breastfeeding. But we don't want pictures that are done by a studio. We want your partner to take a picture of you doing it while you're doing it on your phone. We don't care if it's blurry or grainy. They're the best pictures for us to use. And we use them in hospitals, we use them in resources, we use them online across the country. So we need pictures. And if you've got a story to share, a positive story or a challenge that you've been through as a dad, we'll share it. Because when other dads read your story, they're more likely to acknowledge their own story, and that helps them to get support when they need it.
Absolutely. Amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No worries.
It's been amazing. We want to wish you a happy Father's Day. Thank you so much for coming on Pulling an All-Nighter podcast. And you've been amazing, Kieran. And we encourage everybody to absolutely engage with Dad Matters and all the services around it as well. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Happy birthday in advance as well.
Oh, thank you.
Hey.
Amazing. Thank you very much.